My office indicted two brothers for a scheme to exploit the Ethereum blockchain and to obtain about $25 million worth of cryptocurrency from it.
Tuesday, the 3rd of November 2020. Across the crypto world, wallets start pinging. A long dormant address tied to the dark web market. Silk Road just moved 69,369 Bitcoin, nearly $1 billion at the time. In seconds, on-chain trackers light up. Telegram rooms melt down. Some whisper, "Is Satoshi moving?" Others, "Is this an exchange? A whale? A hacker?" Within hours, the coins funnel into a single destination. Then, silence. A day later, the US government quietly files papers. The headlines don't answer the one question everyone's asking. Who actually pushed send? To understand that click of a button, rewind. Before the pandemic, before the headlines, there was a wallet history that had achieved folklore status. Silk Road, the internet's most infamous bazaar, was seized and shuttered years earlier. Its founder was behind bars. But the blockchain, indifferent and permanent, kept the score. Not every coin had made it into evidence bags. Some sat undisturbed in addresses that became campfire stories for crypto sleuths. People bookmarked block explorers the way others bookmarked sports scores. They waited. They watched. Nothing moved. In those quiet years, something else changed. The cat-and-mouse game evolved. Early chain analysis had been rudimentary dots connected with guesswork and timing. By 2020, it was something else entirely. Clustering heuristics, peeled chain detection, change, address fingerprinting, timing and amount patterning, and graph visualizations that looked like spiderwebs spun by a machine with perfect memory. The old myths, "just split it 100 times and it vanishes," had aged poorly. What used to blur now sharpened. That's the context when alarms finally rang. A tranche of ancient Silk Road-linked coins, coins that hadn't twitched in years, suddenly sprang to life. The path they took wasn't random. It wasn't a messy spray to a dozen exchanges. It was clean, deliberate. Consolidation first, like sweeping crumbs into one neat pile, then a single, audacious handoff. Traders stared at the mempool like it was a crime scene. Analysts screenshotted every hop. The amount, 69,369 BTC, wasn't just large. It felt pointed, almost taunting. Inside government offices, a smaller set of people had another name for the phantom behind the keyboard. Individual X. That label would surface in paperwork soon after, along with a claim that reads more like a twist than a filing. The stash wasn't a remnant Silk Road treasury after all. Someone had hacked Silk Road years earlier, siphoned a fortune, and sat on it in plain sight where nobody could reach it, except through math, patience, and pressure. Which raises the question no one can let go of. If X could outmaneuver the underworld and outweight the authorities, what finally forced their hand? The first hours after the movement feel like a live broadcast. Whale alert bots tweet, discords explode. Some insist it's an exchange reshuffling cold wallets. Others swear it's an early miner cashing out. The timing fans the flames. Markets are waking up. Bitcoin is grinding higher. And the whole space is already tuned for rumors. But then details trickle out. The hops trace back to addresses long cataloged by hobbyists and professionals alike in the Silk Road orbit. This isn't an exchange housekeeping sweep, it's a resurrection. While social feeds spin theories, an entirely different narrative is quietly in motion. Investigators reopen old graphs and overlay new data. They look for the tells, consolidation patterns that don't match exchange behavior, dust outputs used as trackers, tiny amounts sent to ping addresses before a big move, wallet software quirks that leave microscopic fingerprints. If you've never seen a blockchain graph, imagine a night sky, thousands of points of light, and then one constellation that once traced shows you a face you can't unsee. The face they see is a horde, not just big historic. The way it moved suggests a single operator, or at least a single decision. No one fat fingers $1 billion. And then, almost as suddenly as it began, the choreography stops. The coins are corralled. The network goes quiet. The next day, paperwork surfaces. Government lawyers speak in the language of forfeiture and jurisdiction, but buried inside is the line everyone circles in red: Individual X. The phrase lands like an echo from a spy novel. Traders point to charts. Yes, price ripped that week. But price is noise here. Focus on motive. If you're X, the wallet is a dragon's hoard and a time bomb. Every year, analysis improves. Every year, a new tool makes old hiding places obvious. $1 billion doesn't feel heavy until you realize there's nowhere to spend it without leaving footprints. So what pushed send on the 3rd of November? Panic? A knock on the door? Or something even stranger, cooperation? The next document supplies the twist without the face. The twist isn't a raid at dawn. It's a signature in the filings. Consent to forfeiture. No dramatic photo of laptops and ledgers sprawled across a kitchen table. No perp walk. Just a legal handshake with a ghost. The coins, once mythologized by a decade of silence, move into government custody like a quiet wire transfer. The public exhales and then immediately inhales again, because the consent solves where the coins went, but not who sent them there or why. There's one breadcrumb that only deep readers catch. Mentions that Ross Ulbricht, Silk Road's founder, knew who this person was online, had even threatened them at one point. Picture that. The architect of the original empire, behind bars, still a voice in the story, pointing at a shadow. How did X survive that? Did they outmaneuver the underworld, then go to ground? Did they try to launder portions over the years and flinch every time a new analytics company launched with a press release that sounded uncomfortably precise? Here's another angle few consider. What if the fear wasn't law enforcement, it was time? Old coins are radioactive. They attract every amateur sleuth, every chain watcher hungry for clout. Move them and you light up dashboards worldwide. Don't move them, and you trust that the world will never invent a better microscope. Either way, you're cornered. A consent order, as unsexy as it sounds, becomes a pressure valve. You lose the coins, but maybe keep your freedom. Still, the consent itself poses riddles. Was a deal cut? Did X volunteer before a warrant landed, or after a polite conversation turned into an ultimatum? Was the move orchestrated to avoid market shock? And if investigators now say they know who X is, why is the name missing? Is it a sealed case, a cooperating witness, or simply a story that ends where the public's right to know does not reach? The mystery doesn't shrink here, it doubles. Because if this resolved without cuffs, what else has resolved the same way without us ever noticing? Theories stacked like chips on a felt table. Theory 1. The quiet deal. As analytics matured, X sat atop a shrinking island. The choice: risk laundering a fortune through mixers and decoys, or surrender and sidestep prison. A consent forfeiture hints at the second path. The logic is brutal and clean. Lose the money, keep your life. But if that's true, what did X receive in return? Limited immunity, cooperation credit, or simply the chance to disappear? Theory 2. The analytics trap. In the early 2010 seconds, you could fool the graph with clumsy obfuscation. By 2020, not so much. Patterns once invisible became obvious. Peeled chains that look like breadcrumb trails, inter-exchange flows that resemble airport hubs, even idiosyncrasies of wallet software that betray which side of a transaction is change. If X ever tested a small spend and thought it went unnoticed, imagine the dread when a knock came with screenshots of every hop. The trap wasn't a sting, it was time. Theory 3. Not the only phantom. The Silk Road saga birthed other giants in the shadows. Years later, agents would seize another gargantuan stash, tens of thousands of BTC, from a different thief who'd exploited Silk Road in 2012 and then lived quietly with a secret worth multiple lifetimes. That case proved a stunning point. Massive thefts can sleep for a decade and still wake up to handcuffs or consent orders. If there was one X, could there be more letters of the alphabet still out there? Theory 4. Noise from inside the system. The original Silk Road investigation wasn't clean. Corrupt agents siphoned funds and tampered with evidence. That rot doesn't explain X, but it does illustrate the fog that surrounded the money trail, and how many hands honest and not touched it. In that fog, a second unrelated thief could have thrived. Maybe X wasn't a hacker from the shadows, but a technician with proximity and a grudge. Each theory answers something and opens something else. If there was a deal, what price buys a pardon? If analytics cornered X, what mistakes gave them away? If others exist, how many sleeping giants are left on chain? The resolution is coming, but it won't clear the board. It never does. The final steps unfold without Hollywood. The government takes custody of 69,370 BTC from the storied wallet. Court orders are issued. The coins are accounted for. The myth becomes inventory. Somewhere, a spreadsheet updates a line item that reads like fiction. Recovered from address associated with Silk Road theft. Markets do what markets do. Surge, stumble, forget, remember. But the central riddle doesn't budge. Officials signal confidence. They know who individual X Island. They don't say the name. They don't need to. The point, they might argue, isn't a reveal. It's a lesson. On a blockchain, time is not your friend if you stole the money. The ledger forgets nothing. The tools improve. The graph tightens. One day you wake up and the address you thought was a vault is a glass house. So, did X get away with the perfect crime and trade a fortune for freedom at the last second? Or did they merely press pause on consequences that are still catching up? Here's my take. This is the purest crypto paradox. Decentralized money enabled a theft that would have been impossible in a bank vault. The same transparency that made the loot traceable also let the world watch helplessly for years, as nothing happened. In the end, math didn't stop the crime. It solved it later. For viewers who came for the mystery, here's the open-ended door. If a billion-dollar ghost can sign a piece of paper and vanish, how many other ghosts are out there, waiting for the day the chain and the humans reading it connect the last dots? For those here to learn, here's the uncomfortable truth. Privacy theater fails on public ledgers. What works is discipline, compartmentalization, and understanding that every UTXO is a breadcrumb. The blockchain is a diary you can't rip out of the binding. You only choose when someone reads it. And that brings us back to the moment that started this story. One quiet click, one unstoppable broadcast, and the world leaning over a glass pane to watch $1 billion slide from legend into custody. The credits don't roll. The address still exists. The lessons definitely do. The question that keeps the mystery alive, who is individual X, stays exactly where it belongs. One block away from an answer and one signature short of a name.